How did I say we're going to start it?
We were like, we're just going to say, hey, what's going on? Welcome to the show.
Perfect. Okay, cool. Why don't you like Halloween?
Let's start off with a hot take. That is true. I'm not a big, I don't know. I'm that guy that is like a girl, obviously, but also I'm that guy girl who is like, I don't like what everybody else likes. And that's probably one of my most annoying qualities, but I can't help it. Like, that's me living my truth. It's like, oh, what everybody else likes, that's dumb. So Halloween, I think, is dumb. I hate the idea of buying a costume that I'm never going to use again, or investing in a nice costume that then I have to store all year. That stinks. I don't like that at all. Yeah, that's most of it. So it's just like, oh, everybody's having fun doing this thing. This thing sucks. But
I can respect that.
It's a pretty mature take, I think.
It's your life.
That's what I was thinking.
I've just never heard somebody who has a hard stance against Halloween.
Nah, I mean, I think I'm being silly because it got a big reaction out of you off camera. So
I'm a big like that too.
Yeah.
I will immediately start
I think we have
hating things if someone will have a reaction about it.
Big similar traits that I've picked up on over the months that we've known each other. But yeah, that's the main thing. Is it's just like I don't like dressing up. I hate getting dressed in general. I hate how everything looks on me. I hate how everything feels. Like, it's a lot of like, ugh. So then the idea of like, I gotta have a costume and it's gotta be clever and it's gotta be whatever.
Okay, so you're focusing on the logistical part of the holiday.
Yeah.
Which is funny because you said you like the holidays, but it seem to be Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Yes.
Which I feel like have way more logistical.
Which is crazy because I'm big depressed on both of those holidays
but
every
you like
year.
them.
But every year I forget. It's like my childbirth. I'm like, this is gonna rock. And then every time I'm like, I'm the saddest I've ever been. And then
like your childbirth, you mean your birthday?
Huh?
What you said, like your childbirth?
Oh no, yeah, like childbirth. So like and I don't know, haven't experienced. But I guess there's something that like you, after people who give birth.
Post-pregnancy blues or something like that?
No, there's a part of your brain that I think like forgets how bad the childbirth was, like how painful it was.
Got it.
So that the human race will like keep doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's something about that. But again, I don't know, offhand.
Got it.
Haven't
Okay.
done it.
This whole thing started because my birthday is September 4th. And I said from September 5th to October 31st, it is Halloween for me. Mm-hmm. I like Halloween more so. Like, I actually don't even care about Halloween the day. I like just the season of Halloween where everyone is putting out grotesque like decorations and everyone is like thinking about death. That's what I love about it. I think it's fun to be scared. I like going to those haunted houses and things.
Nope, I'm not that guy. Nope. What is fun about being scared? Being scared sucks. I don't like, I bet you love going to like Great America.
Yep.
No, where nope, I don't like that. Absolutely not.
Love it. I love it because in my regular day-to-day life, there's not a lot of excitement. And I think that's why anyone consumes like scary stuff. It's just to get that rush, that feeling. I have this funny tendency that when I get scared or someone scares me, I start laughing at them. So I'm a lot of fun to go to a haunted house with because like someone jumps out and I go, that was amazing.
You would pee your pants if we went to a haunted house. I've only been in one actual haunted house because our kid really bad wanted to go in. And I'm like, no, dude. And he was, I don't know, 6. And he was just talking mad shit to my mom. He was like, you're going to pee your pants when we get in there. And she's like, we'll see. And both of us are crying. We didn't like it at all. And I'm just looking down and then people are yelling at me not to look down. I was like, I'll do what I want. Actually, I don't want to be in here. And then we left. But this last Halloween, he's like you, where he's like, oh, it's so fun in there. And I'm like, we're done talking today.
I get it from my mom too. My mom really likes scary stuff. She'd have us watch like some scary movies with her, like when I was pretty young. Like she was good about like not like traumatizing us, but like if we could stomach it, she's like, yeah, let's do it.
What are your like favorite, your mom introduced you scary movies from a kid?
One I just remember like actually shook me was Ghost Ship. Did you ever see that movie?
No, I don't watch any scary movies.
It's not good. It's kind of very cheesy, but there's like a scene in it where everyone's ballroom dancing and like this metal wire like flies across the dance floor and cuts everyone's head off except one dude gets cut like from his like his mouth,
No.
and this little girl's dancing with him, and like just she looks up and his top of his head just like falls on her. I just remember seeing that and being like, that is insanity, like disgusting, which I
and
think
you're
is
how
fun.
old?
It's probably 11, 12.
I wouldn't watch that now. I wouldn't watch it. There's no way. I won't watch like if you ever watch weird, different thing, but like a vet show, like Dr. Pol.
Oh, yeah, I don't like those.
They'll show like
I'm
little.
gonna match your little crisscross applesauce here.
Ooh, I love that for us.
I think it. Yeah.
I think that's the move.
This is it.
Maybe it'll be the crisscross applesauce
the
podcast.
Zen comedy podcast.
No, I can't watch like any kind of surgery scene like in a show. Like people, animals. I'm just crawling out of my skin the whole time. I don't like that.
I'm with you on that. I don't like to see that.
That's like the same thing. It's like the gore in like a scary movie.
Yeah, maybe it just needs music. Maybe
Yeah.
those shows just need some scary music.
Yeah, you're just like, it's fake blood. It's fine. Like even at 11, I could see that for you, where you're like, this isn't actually real, and that's why it's so funny.
I was in the moment. Like I do get grossed out. Like I'm not good with blood and stuff.
No.
Like, I can operate. I take this back. Like I can be there and be effective as if I had to give first aid.
Yeah.
But I am not immune to it. Like definitely stomach turns, that type of thing. But yeah, the Halloween season to me is fun because I just like to watch scary movies. I like to I'm a big horror literature fan. So I read all of H.P. Lovecraft's stuff. And
you're just throwing book stuff at me now, okay? All right.
H.P. Lovecraft was he came up with a type of horror that at the time no one was really doing, which was the idea that humans might just be like ants in the grand scheme of forms of life. Mm-hmm. And so all of his stories are about humans encountering aliens that are just so much bigger and weirder than we can even understand. And they just accidentally fuck with us. Mm-hmm. And just the trauma, the PTSD that these people go through of just my town, a random color, I can just only describe it as color, went into a well and turned a kid into a goat person. And I don't know, man, but it fucked up my kid.
Yeah.
And it's called cosmic horror. And so
great.
And it ended up influencing a lot of what happens after that. So the movie Alien, I said we watched Alien. Mm-hmm. The idea that an alien's going to just show up, impregnate your face, and then just you just become a vessel for their baby. That Lovecraft was the first guy to be stories like that.
Yeah.
Where before that, kind of the big horror guy was Edgar Allan Poe, which was a lot more about psychological, I did something horrible and I can't keep the secret. And that's what bothers me. So a lot more human centric, where Lovecraft was yeah, dude, what if you don't even fucking matter to anyone at all in the grand scheme of things?
What if your face is a horse?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I get that.
Yeah.
So these are books.
Mm-hmm. Well, but even now, I think it inspired a lot of Stephen King, and Stephen King recently beat out William Shakespeare for the most adaptations to film.
Wow.
So he's in a way, the most famous author of all time now. Mm-hmm. Just kind of gnarly. And a lot of his stuff, like Cujo, or It. Mm-hmm. It's a perfect, it's technically an alien that presents itself as a clown. So it's just layers of what is going on.
I won't watch it.
What?
I won't watch it. I won't watch the old one. I won't watch the new one. No, I don't like it. Mm-mm.
Good for you.
Yeah, but you like it.
I do.
That's
I like
good.
the
We should have different interests.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's important for the podcast right now. You can talk about this thing, and then I'll talk about something random.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I like the other holidays though.
Yeah.
I like Thanksgiving, Christmas.
Now, do you get sad like I do? I experience my life in the high highs and the low lows.
Oh, this drives my girlfriend nuts. I am the most whatever person.
Just never sad.
No, I'm just always in the middle.
Yeah.
Never super excited and never really sad. If the range of emotions is 1 to 10, 80 to 90% of my life I live between a 4 and 6.
Yeah.
And
which is called 5.
Sure, but I mean, there are days where I'm a 4 and there's days where I'm a 6, and you can tell.
Yeah.
If I start getting into the 7 or the 3 range, I just go okay, we're that's compartmentalize, disassociate. So, and that happens very rarely.
Yeah.
I'm pretty lucky. I mean, I've told you, there's a lot of stuff going on in my family, health wise and stuff like that. And we've had a lot of people pass away recently. And I think I'm pretty good at genuinely not really being too affected by it.
Wow.
Going yeah, this is a natural part of life. Like, this is what happens. Well, that's what I was going to say. Another thing I really like about spooky stuff is when you start looking into all that, it like goes into other stuff I really like, which is like occultism and like ancient religions and like weird shit. So like vampires and werewolves are like metaphors for like people. And that's why those monsters like proliferate into our like current consciousness. So like originally a vampire could only come into your house if you invited them in.
I know that part.
And that's because it stood as a metaphor for people who like suck your energy and just take from you. You have to let them into your life for them to do that. Those type of people don't just show up and, you know, attack you. Werewolves, the whole reason why it was like the full moon or like when people were basically in the darkness is just people who are like a wolf in sheep's clothing type thing. That was like the point of that. Like they only do this when no one can see them. And then when they come out of it, they act like, oh, that wasn't me. And we all know people like that.
Yeah.
That like they get too drunk, they do a bunch of shit, and you're like, dude, that's fucked up. And they're like, oh, well, you know, I was drunk. Like, it's just they
I hate that.
They were personifying that into a monster. And so I find all that stuff really fascinating because I actually think there's a lot of wisdom that like our great grandparents understood that we've forgotten. And like now we are getting attacked by all of these, and I'm being like kind of poetic when I say that, but like we're getting hit with these things and going like, oh, why is this a problem? And it's like, dude, read a book. Like literally like read a book. Like these people were not making this shit up. Unlike today where everything's made for entertainment and spectacle, stories back then were a tool to educate illiterate people. Yeah. So they always had a point to them. There was always something like to it. And a lot of that stuff really sticks in our brain because we still use what I call like the coats of paint today. Like we'll still make movies about vampires, but now we have like Twilight, which has kind of lost the, and I'm not talking shit on Twilight. I've never actually watched it, to be honest. And I know people like it, but it is
not spooky enough.
What's that?
Not spooky enough. Did not make the cut.
No, it did not look spooky to me at all.
No, it wasn't. I watched it.
I hear it's good. I'm trying not to knock it.
My dad was so into it when we got that movie. Oh my goodness. When my dad had this phase of like buying bootleg DVDs like at the end of high school for me. So I'm like 17, 18. And at that time we actually fostered my best friend in high school. She was going through some stuff. So she was my foster sister for a few years. Anyway, so it's just, you know, me, my foster sister, my mom, my dad, and we're watching whichever Twilight that my dad just got. Whatever's hot in 2010, the new one from bootleg, that's what my dad was on. And we're a bunch of girls, so we're just talking during the whole, and my dad's just getting he's steamed up, and he's like, I can't hear what the vampire kid is saying. He's getting so anytime I think of Twilight, I think of that. I think of my dad saying that, being real upset, not knowing what Edward's getting into. But yeah, so you said a word to my face and just assume I knew what that meant. It was like occulticism. Occultism. Is it like cult? Is it what I can expect?
I believe the definition of occult just means like hidden magic or like hidden religion. So
it's not what I thought.
Yeah. Okay. So it's one of those things that like you start talking about one part of it and it's like an octopus. Like if I start talking about it, I might just be talking about like one tentacle. So I'm not actually telling you like what an octopus is. So if I try to explain this, okay. Alternative religious beliefs that have shown enough evidence of also being real that either the religions we do follow have chosen to not cover this because of what it might like do to the culture. So a good example of like an occult part of Judaism, there's kind of mainstream Judaism. And then there's this upper part called Kabbalah, and that's considered a cult. You have to be like 35 and like a really outstanding Jew in your community to even be allowed to learn Kabbalah. And exactly.
Well, because what I know about Kabbalah is that Madonna was on it.
So they were studying it as well. Now, were they studying the Kabbalah that like is outlined in the Torah and like that? Who knows? It's just like, do you know who the Freemasons are? Okay, so the Freemasons are kind of like the most public secret society. They literally have lodges like clubhouses everywhere. There's probably one in your city. There's definitely one where I live. I could like show you where it is. And they are some people think they're Christian, but then they go like, well, if you get up high enough in the levels of it, they are actually Satanists, like posing as Christians. And it's because their religion would be considered a cult.
Okay.
So there's extra, like, Scientology is like the most like faux occult. Like, because it has no real basis in what they actually believe, but the process is exactly like what the Freemasons are, or like you've heard of the Illuminati.
Yes.
Basically,
haven't been
thing.
invited. Just I would like to get that on record.
So the real Illuminati did exist for at least a while, and it started in Freemasonic lodges.
Yep.
So that's kind of the tie-in, which is why people think the Freemasons are like not good, because they're like, oh no, we got rid of all those guys, and they're like, well, that's exactly what they want you to think, type shit. But basically, the stuff they believe is considered a cult, and so I think that stuff is really cool. Most of what Duncan Trussell talks about, anytime they're talking about magic, that's occultism.
Okay.
Reiki stuff would honestly be kind of considered a cult, because it's not something that you're going to get to hear in the church. So the question is it bullshit? Who knows? Maybe it's real, but then also they don't want everyone to know about it. So even in the Bible, they say don't cast pearls before swine. Like, it's the idea that like not everyone is like smart enough or capable of handling like what really goes on with this shit.
Wow. Spooky.
Yeah.
Wow.
Most of it boils down to the idea that like angels and demons might be real and you can actually contact them, but not everybody should, so they don't let everybody learn.
Okay.
And
I might be in favor of that. I think maybe not. Too many fucks have Ouija boards as it is, and they're doing shit.
And so the idea would be in the ancient Egypt and these type of older cultures, they would start training people on the religion, and those that kind of showed like an adeptness for like understanding or like have a more philosophical mind, they're like, hey, would you be interested in like moving up in the church? And then you'd eventually get brought into one of these things where they'd be like, hey, I know we've been telling everybody like it's a triangle, it's actually a fucking pyramid, and like just the idea of like, you know, it in one dimension, but it's like this thing is bigger. Yeah. And they're like, whoa, and then someone goes, actually it's a dodecahedron, which is like a bunch of them. Yeah. And you're like, dude, what the fuck, you know? And so they're like, yeah, but now you have to be president and you have to, you know, have sex with a boy so we can blackmail you and make sure that you don't tell anybody about the dodecahedron.
Both of those things sound bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's usually what happens. Usually to get the answers to that type of stuff, you usually have to join a society and they make you do some sort of weird thing because they just want to incriminate you. It's like the P. Diddy thing, like with rap. They just want to make sure that whatever they teach you doesn't get out, because honestly, most people are not smart enough or responsible enough to like handle it.
And so you're like, for sure, those things exist. You were like,
I've read enough stuff that I'm like, to me, if enough people believe it, it's functionally true.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, there are Satanists out there that like use Planned Parenthood to like take little fetuses and use them for like rituals. I don't know if they're actually contacting the devil, but they're doing all that stuff, which is also not good. Yeah. So it's functionally real. Yeah. And I think something that's kind of weird, like when you learn about in science about the placebo effect, we kind of gloss over that like it's a mistake. And it's like, no, maybe that's like goes to show you how powerful your mind is.
Yeah.
And that's what I think magic and rituals really are. It's like, it's ways to trick yourself into going into a mindset to accomplish a thing. And so if it works for that thing, then it works. Yeah. I don't know if a demon's actually helping you do that, but if I like go like, oh, I really want my comedy show to go well tomorrow, and I decide on like LSD that like, oh, I have to, because I thought I was talking to somebody, like, oh, I have to do 25 push-ups and go punch my brother in the stomach for this to work. I go and do that and then I have a good set. It's like, who knows? And you do that stuff enough, I could see how people get into this idea of like, yeah, this is how I make it work. Yeah. And what's crazy is like a lot of powerful people believe this stuff. Yeah. Like athletes, politicians, they're doing weird shit. You are familiar with like Bohemian Grove? No, it's okay if you're not.
Is that
it's
Alex
a place
guy?
What?
What's that guy?
What guy?
I don't know. What's his name? That's terrible. He just had to pay a lot of money for the Sandy Hook, or he's working on it.
Alex Jones was one of the first people to record. Yes,
he was like
the cremation of care ceremony during Bohemian Grove.
Yes,
the Bohemian ceremony. So Bohemian Grove is a place in California. I don't know. I can't remember what city it's in. I think it's close to us though. I think it's probably like 50 miles from us. Where there's a big 40-foot statue of an owl, and really famous and powerful politicians go there for like 3 days and hang out with each other. And they say that it's just like a big hang for these people, so they can just kind of like drink and have fun. But then some people think they like make plans there. So like one of the big rumors is the Manhattan Project that created the H-bomb was first thought about and conceived at Bohemian Grove. And so this is definitely real. It definitely happened. Like you said, Alex Jones snuck in there and recorded. They start the ceremony with, or the festivities with a ceremony called the cremation of care, where they burn an effigy of a child in front of the thing. And like Walter Cronkite, like a recording of Walter Cronkite says some like random shit about being powerful or something. People think they used to use a real kid until it got caught, and now they use an effigy. So it's like weird shit like that.
Yeah.
But again, why go through the rigmarole of like having this cremation of care ceremony like every time if it doesn't really matter?
Right.
You know, so I don't know.
So you're like, those things are happening.
We know those things are happening.
Okay. I didn't know that we knew that.
Oh, it's pretty well. Yeah, it's pretty well documented.
For sure.
Like I said, Alex Jones got caught it the first time, and he didn't make it up. Like he really did do that. And then other people have snuck in. And like a lot of it's on YouTube now too.
Is it?
The internet has made it really hard, I think, for a lot of this creepy stuff to like not get out. Again, who knows how many of these like P. Diddy type characters like this has always been happening, just no one knew about it because the outlets weren't there.
Yeah.
The mainstream media knew to not do it. Like William Randolph Hearst, you know who he is?
That name.
You ever heard of the
That's
Hearst?
definitely a name.
The Hearst Castle down in. Okay, yes, that's his house.
Got there.
He was really, really rich, and he owned all the newspapers at the time. So like, if he's one of those Bohemian Grove guys, and like something comes out, like he decides whether it gets printed or not. So, you know, but now everyone can broadcast themselves. I mean, you and I are going to broadcast this, and we have no credentials to do that. And so I think just the leakage of information is out there, which is why a lot of this stuff is way more accessible, where it might have been one person who accidentally walked in on this thing, and, you know, they probably tried to, some of these guys might have just gotten killed. Yeah. Just done. And what happened? Oh, he went missing. He went hiking.
Right.
Gone.
Yep.
Nobody looks into it. So, have you ever watched True Detective?
Yes.
So the first season of True Detective.
Did you watch all of them?
I only watched the first season. I heard season 2 was horrible.
It is.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The first season is my favorite. I rewatch it. So that whole idea.
You can't say it's your favorite if you haven't watched all the True Detectives.
Oh, I mean, it's like my favorite piece of media of all time.
Okay.
So like, if I put that into one 8-hour movie, that's my favorite.
But you're missing all the like where they talk about where like the little Easter eggs of season 1 in the other seasons.
Well, maybe I'll have to watch it.
Okay. Well,
my point is,
unfortunately, you will have to sit through 2.
Okay, this is so great because that is a Lovecraftian story. So the fact that Matthew McConaughey is constantly having synesthesia, and like you never know whether what
like
he's
Kanye
seeing.
West.
Yeah, well, you never know what he's seeing is real or if he's hallucinating. That's like a classic character in a Lovecraft novel where like shit's happening. Like he sees the symbol in the crows, you know, like that's.
Yep.
And
yes,
it's like,
does.
Did that happen or is that what he saw? And then he sees the psychosphere right before he gets stabbed. It's like, did he actually, is the Yellow King real or is the Yellow King a crazy dude? Like that's the thing that Lovecraft plays with a lot. So that's actually pretty funny because that is a most of that story is taken from like Lovecraftian elements.
I like stuff like that.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
And then what was the other point of that? What else were we talking about? Oh, and they uncover a conspiracy that goes way higher than Yellow King. Like if you paid attention to the story, it's actually that the guy who runs the church is part of this huge pedophile ring, and they just caught the small cell that's operating in Louisiana. Yes. So where does that shit come from? It comes from.
We don't get to the bottom of it in season 2. We do a whole new story with different characters, but yes.
And I believe all 3 seasons, they're all uncovering.
4 seasons.
4 seasons. Well, my understanding is the way the show is structured, the reason why we're following different detectives from each different state is because the larger narrative is that, again, the Leviathan that is this pedophile ring is so big that the best you can do is cut off a nub of one of the tentacles, which is exactly all they accomplish. Rust and Martin is like, they catch the Yellow King. Yeah. And they're like, great. And even they go like, did it even matter? Yeah. At the end, which is very classic Lovecraftian. Like, I
mean, any pedophile rings you get off the street is a win.
Which is totally.
Right?
And this is why at the end, Cole says, you know, I used to look at the sky and see only darkness, but now I realize the fact that the light is existing at all means that we might be winning. Yeah. So to your point, any little bit of movement in the right direction is objectively good.
Yes.
Which is so actually not Lovecraftian at the end. Lovecraft would just go,
that's a different guy you're going to tell me about.
May not have mattered. No, we just talked about him. He was the author.
No, I know, but you said that wasn't him. So I thought you were going to be like, that's actually this guy. And then tell me about his books.
Oh, I see. No.
Dr. Seuss or whoever.
Dude, Dr. Seuss. Oh, this is going to be
get into some literature I'm familiar with.
Such a dark episode.
Actually, skip it. I don't even. Let's talk about a safe author, J.K. Rowling. No, I'm just just kidding. Let's not talk about books. I don't read them and I don't like them. My bad on that.
I don't read them and I don't like them. One thing that is kind of a cult that I've been really getting into recently is tarot cards.
Fun.
They're pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
They're cool. So, always kind of knew what they were used for, but didn't know anything about the individual cards.
Yeah.
Like the last couple of days, I've just been kind of like consuming a lot of stuff about them. Mm-hmm. And what's really kind of fun about tarot cards that I find is that a lot of the themes and like what shows up on all the cards, to me, it's always fun. Like something like that no one really knows about. And they're like, oh, that's not for me. It's like, oh, well, a lot of stuff that is used in tarot shows up in something you do like. Mm-hmm. So one of the album covers of Led Zeppelin uses the Hermit card as their thing. That weird guy holding the lantern. That's directly from the tarot cards.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. You know, and that's what I think is fun is when really old stuff shows up in modern day things. Like common thing you see a lot. Most security systems are called Cerberus.
I bet they are. Yep.
You're a Disney fan?
Okay, sure.
Let's go. You watch Hercules?
Yes.
Remember when he throws meat at the three-headed dog? Mm-hmm. That dog's name is Cerberus. And that is why...
If you say so.
It is. And again, this is why people will name that type of, would name a security system Cerberus, because it's like pulling back from the Greek myth that he protects the underworld. And it's like, oh, I'm going to pick a mythical deity that does that thing.
Yeah.
Marvel, they use Thor and Loki, which are pretty well-known Celtic gods. This stuff shows up everywhere. Like in a way, Duncan Trussell would talk about this a lot, that like the occult is actually around all the time. You're just not paying attention to it. Mm-hmm. Like, why is the George Washington Monument an obelisk? Like, that is not Christian. That is ancient Egyptian religion. Mm-hmm. And then you find out he was a Freemason, and they love ancient Egyptian like stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, oh, okay, interesting. You ever been in New York?
No.
Okay. In New York, at the
Statue of Liberty. Oh.
Statue of Liberty is there. The Rockefeller Center.
Yes.
At the Rockefeller Center, there is a big statue of Apollo. And
where they'd ice skate.
Yes.
I've seen movies.
Now, around it, the buildings around it, on the walls have a bunch of hieroglyphs. Mm. And it's like, why do we have Egyptian hieroglyphs in the middle of New York City?
Right.
Like, why is there a big statue of Atlas, like, facing a church that has been there forever? Like, there's a lot of these weird things. Mm-hmm. And so the weird elite people that believe this stuff, it's like all these different gods or entities are vying for, like, our influence.
Oh.
And the way you venerate them is by making statues and stuff for them. And so it's like, this is what gets all the evangelical Christians kind of crazy, because they're like, there's a war on our religion. It's like, there actually like is, but the question is any of this real?
Yeah.
Or is it just people making shit and like trolling other people? Because one of the most famous Satanists, Anton LaVey, was actually an atheist. He just thought it was hilarious to like make a church called Satanism. And if you actually asked him about it, he'd be like, I don't think the devil's real. I just like what he stands for as a character. Oh. He's like, he gave a big finger to the big man. Yeah. He's like, I get to do what I want. He's like, I think that's cool. Mm-hmm. But then you have Aleister Crowley, who's another very famous occult person. He's the reason why we think 666 is the mark of the beast and is like a bad thing. Mm-hmm. He legitimately was like, oh yeah, no, I've talked to demons. Like, I know how to make them like do stuff. And he created his own tarot deck based off of ancient Egyptian stuff, which I haven't touched yet because it's way more complicated.
I bet.
OG.
I bet.
But I might get a tarot deck after this podcast.
Fun. Are you going to learn how to do the cards?
Yeah. I think right now I could do a reading. I think I know enough that I could. I know enough about what the cards mean now that I could be like, oh, I get this. And the process when you do a reading, it's called divination, which in a not fun religious term, really means like you look at the symbolism of the cards and then you apply it to your life.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea being that like the universe gave you these cards because this is what you need to look at.
Yeah.
So it's really about you, like how you see it. They always say the tarot cards are like a mirror. It's so you're supposed to come to the tarot cards with some sort of question.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. What's a good question for tarot? Because it usually is like, what should I do?
Yeah.
Next. So like, what should I do like with my comedy career, right? And if you get the like 9 of Swords, the picture is like a person who is wrapped up, blindfolded, and surrounded by 9 swords. And it means like your thoughts, the swords stand for like your thoughts. You are like overthinking about this and you're trapped now. And so when you get that, it's more of like, hey, stop thinking so much. Just like do something. And that's what like the Knight card always means. The Knight, because the Knight is the one who always like advances. And so it's like, hey, stop worrying about this. Just keep doing what you're doing. And, hopefully the third card will make sense of the last thing. But that's really what you're supposed to do with them. So I don't think there's like an objective meaning to the cards, so to speak. The cards were meant to touch on like this, like universal aspects of life and just kind of get you to think about things in a way you may not have, because people kind of go through their thought spirals. Do you do that? Do you thought spiral a lot?
How do you even have thoughts if they're not in a spiral, dude? That's the only way I ever think about anything.
Really?
Yeah. I'm tired a lot. I'm just like, oh. If it goes this way, then all these things. Most of my time is spent having arguments that'll never happen.
I do that a lot. I do that because it's fun, though. I like getting mad.
No, I don't like getting mad. That stinks. Then I have to be like, then I gotta be like, I'm in a bad mood because I was arguing with myself earlier about what somebody might say to me one day, and
I see.
I don't like it.
What's that argument you had with yourself recently that you're willing to share?
Well, that's the thing, is there are very specific things, and it's always me versus someone else, or it's like, how do they go? I don't know. I got to be in one. I'll think of one.
Recently, I was, and again, I think it's because I'm watching so many William Montgomery clips now. I think what I love what I love, I didn't really like him at the beginning. I didn't really get him. Like, I didn't dislike him.
That's what's so cool, is that you don't get him. You're like, what? That's what's cool, is the absurdity. It's similar. It's in a similar vein to The Rocket. You see it as absurd comedy? Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Have you seen his first minute?
No. Maybe I have, actually. Maybe.
His first minute is so, I would never, ever try to repeat it, but his first minute is so, it's like, that's what you need to know about William Montgomery. And also I don't want to be like, oh no, I'm not trying to be that guy. That's like, I watched the podcast and now we're best friends, and I know I'm not that guy, but I love anybody doing a different thing. I don't have to, it's not that I love all absurd comedy. I love somebody who is brave enough to be like, this is me in this space, and it is original, and it's in a similar vein. Casey Rocket is in a similar vein where it's out there.
To me, Casey is legitimately unique.
Absolutely. I would never say otherwise for him. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're not a big fan, is what I'm saying?
No, I do. I like him very much.
You fucking hate him, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is what I changed my mind to. No, actually, I think he's great. I have a hard time being negative about comedy at all.
Yeah.
Because it's like, that's, like there's plenty of huge comedians that I don't like, but I'm like, that's for someone else. Like, they found their audience, sort of a thing.
Yeah.
But no, I enjoy Casey Rocket. I don't know. And that's what's tricky. So it's like, in my head, I'm trying to rack and stack them for you right now. Like, who are my favorite of the regulars? And that's hard for me because it's like, and I don't want to be like that, like, lame guy who's a girl, I don't want to be that lame guy girl who's like, it's an art. I do like to think of comedy as a craft. And I do, and that's the thing.
What's the difference to you?
I don't know. Something about craft makes me feel like I'm being less like prissy about it, I guess.
To me, craft implies that there's a technique to it.
There is a technique to it.
See,
there's
but
multiple techniques.
I would argue that it is more art than people give it credit for. And
like for anybody else, I would be like, let him do his art. I'd be like, they're an artist. But like for me, it's like I was like, I do this thing. I don't know. Like, I have a hard time owning it as like being because it's very new for me to like own being a creative person.
Okay.
Because for a long time I didn't have that outlet.
Got it.
So
So you just don't want to come off as pretentious.
Oh, ever.
I
Yeah,
see.
that's
Yeah.
never how I want to come across. I feel bad. I'll feel bad if I have like a thought that I'm like, that could if somebody heard that thought right now, they would think you might be a little pretentious. I have a tough time with that.
Yeah. I think it's normal to get that way. I think that's a normal part of the human spirit. I think what we call maturity is learning how to manage those things, though. The fact that you don't say it, like you recognize I shouldn't say that, is the thing you can hang your hat on. But like to think that there's somebody out there who like doesn't have those thoughts from time to time.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And that's what's tricky is I think that's fine for everybody else. For everybody else, I'm like, yeah, dude, be your biggest cheerleader. Like, yeah, you rock and go do that thing. But for me, I'm like, don't do that. That's naughty,
fair.
and you shouldn't do it.
I can agree with that. Sometimes I let myself run on that, but usually it's like recreational. I'm like ironic about it.
Yeah.
I like lean into it for a second and then like run it into its logical course and then laugh at myself and be like, wow, that was dumb. That was so lame that you sucked your own dick like that for like 5 minutes. Like, get out of here, dude. You are nothing.
Yeah.
And I love that. Like, I love that emotional process.
Yes.
What I'm learning about this podcast is I like emotional processing. I like to go walk into a thing, have an experience I don't normally have, and then I'm good at being done with it and I can go back to being my like 4 to 6 self.
Yeah.
You know, but so I will recreationally go down and up.
Yeah.
And I think it's good. I think you need that type of release. I think people need that. So I'm a big, I don't like it when people repress things too heavy. I would rather know that you lose your mind a little bit every once in a while because I think that's good for you. I think that keeps you from actually being like a bad person. And it bums me out when I meet people and I get the impression that they are never themselves.
Yeah.
I don't think you should be your authentic self all the time. I don't agree with that. I think manners exist for a reason.
Yeah.
But I do, everything should be a bit of a balance. Like you gotta have those nights where you are just the worst. And if you have good friends, they let you do that because they know you need that and then reel you back in and be like, okay, we're done. That was fun. You know? But that is not always the case.
Yeah.
Do you think? Because I mean, you have a son that's pretty young. Like, do you think that they are forced to be repressed more or less than we were at our age?
Oh.
I feel like they're allowed to be themselves a little bit more in certain places, and then stuff that we were allowed to be a little more like with. I think they're really
like. What will we be more with?
I feel like if you mouthed off about politics, like in the moment,
as a child,
like I almost feel like it was like. Because we had George Bush, right? That was like Donald
That's
Trump.
That's who I voted for in the 3rd grade. We practiced voting, and I was like, you know what? My mom told me Gore, but my dad told me Bush. So I'm actually, I'm going to go with that.
Even the fact that you can like say that, right?
Yeah.
Like I think is something that if anyone his age did not say Kamala Harris, even if they weren't even being serious, like not okay. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think and that's the thing too, is like, I do kind of think that there's a lot of like young kids who obviously their brains aren't done cooking at 25. That's why I'm big on that. I tell our kid all the time, I'm like, dude, if you can just hold off till you're 25 and do stuff, like just let your brain fully form. You know, if you can't, I understand, we're all human, but so I try to instill that in him early where it's like, yo, just wait until you're as old as possible to do stuff. But I do think that there's some kids that are like, they'll do it as like that thing that I also do where I'm like, oh, if everybody likes it, I hate it. And
just
then they'll
troll.
kind of, they'll troll and they'll jump on the, like, then Trump will be their entire identity right now. But no, I think that they're allowed to be a lot more free. It's a little complicated. I have some mixed takes on stuff. I am big and here's the thing. I choose to parent in a way that is like everything is normal, you know? Like I remember explaining like what being gay was to our kid. Like we were watching like a game show and they were like acting out and there was a partner or there was like a couple, it was like couple versus couple and there were like 2 husbands and then our kid was like, he was just like, oh, who are these 2 guys? And I was like, oh, they're husbands. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, I was like husband and wife. I'm like, but just 2 husbands, just 2 guys. And then he was like, oh, okay. And then like, so I like that. That's how I like to go about stuff. So I'm big on like I don't think like books should be banned. I don't think like, you know, I don't have a problem with like the pride flag being around, but it's like I'll get to a little weird where I'm just like I do also want to make sure stuff's not getting pushed on anybody. So it's like that's hard for me to be like if I would love it if everybody was like, hey, this is a thing. This book has, you know, 2 moms in it or whatever. And that we all could just treat it as normal. But every so often it'll be like once he had an assignment in elementary school that was like, here's what the pride flag stands for, and now you make your own pride flag and you talk about the values that you know would want. And I was like, you know, that sounds good. You know, I wasn't there. So it's like, I don't know if it's like, you know, I guess kind of like being, and that's the thing too. It's like, I think about being a kid and like how, and like still, even to this day, how badly I want to fit in, right, with whatever. And it's just like, you know, how quick kids are to like put labels on themselves to try to fit in with any particular group. And it's just like, dude, you're growing so fast. And it's just like, and that, you know, hey, this might be you, but it also might not be, and just be open to both possibilities. And also it doesn't matter either way. So I don't know. I forgot what the question was. But it was like, are kids more free? I think so. But I also think that I don't know. I think it's more confusing time because it's like there's so much visibility even at school. So, I mean, we're not even touching on the internet, but it's like there's so much visibility to all these different thoughts. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I think they're all normal things. But yeah, so it's like I could see any kid like kind of falling into like, this is it and this is my whole identity now, because that's how kids are. That's how some adults are. So you can't fault them. But I do think that they're more free. I also think a lot about...
Wait, you don't fault people who make one thing their whole identity?
Because they want to fit in. Like, that's so human. So I can't fault anybody for that.
You are a better person than me.
I really hope that, like, I work really hard to not do that. And it's just, like, I really hope that for our kid. I hope it's like, hey, just, like, go do all the interests you have. Go, you know, like, just be whoever you are. But it's like, I so badly want that to not be influenced. And how do you tell as a parent, like, what is influenced and what isn't? You know, I'm just like, go figure it out. But yeah, so I think that they're a lot freer, but I think that it's a lot more confusing. And, I think often about like that we're a bunch of millennials parenting. So it's kind of like, I think it's around the first time that like millennials are really parenting. So it's the relationship that like my husband and I have with our kid versus like the relationship anybody, like me and my parents, my husband and his parents, any of like my friends, any people like in our age group and their relationship with their parents is different, you know? And I think that that's good sometimes. And I think it's bad sometimes, you know? And it's just like we've had to work really hard with like, and our kid is an only child. So he's around adults all the time. And so it's like, so we've had to work on like, but you're not an adult, you know? So it's just like, hey, so you got to listen in this context sort of a thing. So I think the freedom that they have now is a double-edged sword. Yeah.
Yeah. It is funny. I do think like the older I get, the more I'm like, most people shouldn't get to do what they want till they're older.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because obviously when I was a kid, I wanted to be able to do like what I wanted.
Of course.
And you find that people that are like have access to a lot of stuff. Like some of the most grounded celebrities are ones that are like very self-disciplined.
Yes.
Like they have the ability to be free and choose not to. And I don't know how to square that because like philosophically I'd be like freedom is an inherently good thing.
Yes.
Yet I know for myself, like I just, you know, my birthday was last week, so I was off all week. Without stuff to do, like I do bad things. I just drink or I just like, I don't do things that are good for me. Like I need to be forced to do some shit that I don't necessarily want to do.
Right.
Because that's how I stay like doing good things.
Yeah.
So I'll overload myself with stuff and it's almost like that's a better version of me. Like doing a bunch of shit that I'd be like, I really don't think I want to do this, but I should probably be doing this. Then like doing what I want.
Yeah.
Because like immediately it's like, first I'll smoke weed, and then we'll have some drinks, and then it's like, oh shit, well, time to bust out, you know, all the other shit, and then before you know it, I've been on like a bender for like 2 days.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's the point? Like, there got to a point where this wasn't fun,
yeah.
but I just wanted to exercise my freedom so bad that I went in this like just hedonic cycle of just self-destruction. And then, you know, I'm like, oh, I gotta get back working out, and like I become two different people.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think when I was acting, I was like the happiest, and I was like the least free. I had to get up at like 3 a.m, and then I had to work from like 6 to like 1, and then I had to be at bed by like 8 p.m. And I do think I'm like a person, which is why doing stand-up is so hard, that like I'm the best version of me if I get to bed by like 8 or 9. I don't do anything good for myself after 9 p.m. It's very, very rare that I'm like, oh yeah, 9:30, time to read a book. Like time to, you know, most productive version of me is in the morning. And so it's funny because I like to do stand-up. I don't want to stop doing it.
Yeah.
But I am like always riding the line of that temptation of
so
like.
late at night.
Too many times I've been with you guys playing pool and drinking way too much.
I know.
Than I should have. And I'm like, I wouldn't be doing this if I was.
You're like, look at me acting like I'm not an adult.
Exactly.
You know? That's
and
crazy.
I love hanging out with you guys. Like I will always say yes to doing that.
Yes.
And my liver's like, fuck you. Like,
we actually feel terrible.
Yeah, exactly. I wake up in the morning going like, was that worth it? And it's like, yeah, in one aspect, absolutely.
Yeah.
But if I keep this up for 3 years, you know, I'm cooked. I'm cooked by like 42.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I'm like, comedy is so late at night. And it's like, I think about it often too, because like at the beginning of the week, our kid is with us because he also has original recipe mom. So like
ORM.
Yes. An ORM. ORM. And then Mondays and Tuesdays are such big nights for open mics, which is our level. And so I'm trying my hardest to like get up as many times as possible, as quickly as possible. So I'm like, okay, Monday is like all in my head. Like I've had to kind of structure out being an open micer for myself, where I'm like, okay, Monday is a 3 mic night, you know, where it's like, so I either do this route or I do this route, and that's how I'm going to hit it. And so it's like often, especially if it's like I end up in Livermore as my last, it's like I'll be home at like 11, and then it's like, then I don't get to bed till like midnight. And then because I'm just, it's like, it's hard to go to sleep after you've been running around all over the Bay Area trying to make just rooms full of strangers laugh at your insecurities. But then I'll wake up at like 6 a.m, and I'm like packing my kids' lunch.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm just
you go back to your other life.
Huh?
You go back to your other life, and you're like, these things are incommensurate.
Yeah. And I'm that person who's never happy. I'm always like, I should have gone home. Like, I'm like, who am I that I'm out? I should have just done 2 mics, and then I should have gone home, because I'm missing out on saying goodnight to my kid, which is a big, like, that is the thing that bums me out while I'm out. Is just like, I'm like, oh, I'll text him. It's not the same. And so it's just like, oh, I'm missing that. And then, but then if I'm home, and then I'm like, I could have been doing this mic. I could have, like, so I'm just always upset with myself, no matter what I'm doing. And I'm always like, most of my life is spent like trying to set myself up to be as little upset as possible. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to do.
It is funny that like the duality of like your identity, right? Because I feel like that too. Like my day life is so different than my nightlife. Yeah. And like the people that are in my day life, like, can't know about my nightlife.
Right.
Like, they really can't, which is why like I perform under a different name and like do a bunch of shit that I think is stupid and dumb.
I was so excited to tell you something earlier, but do you want to keep telling about your name?
No, tell me what.
Okay, so you know what I'm gonna say. At an open mic, Hatch told my husband, he was like, I want to call you Nacho Camacho right now, and I lost my shit. I thought that was so funny. And then I was like, is my podcast partner kind of like my husband? And then I was like, because I've never once, I was like, why? I was like, because you guys, and Max is like, because we're both brown guys. And I was like, for sure. And I was like, and have facial hair or whatever. Oh, yeah.
No, we're like the same size. Like,
I don't, that's in my head. I don't think about that.
Yeah, I was the cousin raised by white kids. Like, we could pull that off. We'd be like, oh, yeah, no, we're from the same family, but I got stolen by white people early on. And, you know.
Well, we're good at that.
That's the idea. Yeah. No, that's funny. Hatch loves doing that. Shout out to Hatch. Hatch is probably like one of the most funny and fun local comics in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Just did Yoshi's, just did like a headline, like a pretty big venue in Oakland. But yeah, he's a guy, dude. Hatch will come up to me and tell me if I look fat that day or not, and I think it's so funny. He'll come in and be like,
well, that would crush me, but that's fun for
you. He goes, you looking real good today. You looking real good today. I'm like, thank God. He's like, I see you working out. That's good. Or he goes, one more sandwich, and it's all gone. Like, thanks, Hatch. Good to know.
Man,
good to know.
He is the man.
He is really funny. He comes up to me because he usually comes to stuff that I'm hosting. Very funny, young man. Very funny. And I go, thank God. Like, because then he's like Jonathan Light. He'll go up there and just talk about who's a bum.
Yeah.
You know, on Facebook all day, just like, this person's a bum. Like, can't stand this guy. Like, my shit's funny. Hashtag. Yeah. No, I love Hatch.
Yeah.
He's a good dude. But when I first joined like the scene, he's like, you remind me of like Alex Torres, who reminds me of Luis Perez. He's like, it's the 3 levels of funny. You know, you get funnier and fatter as it goes on. And I was like, fuck, dude, that fucking sucks to be Luis right now.
I love it. And I'm a big fan
love
of
Luis, but he was the funniest one in that trifecta, meaning he was the fattest one.
Yeah.
So
that's how Hatch sees it.
Comedy.
Okay.
Yeah, because he was like, I was the least funny at the time.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's the evolution. He's all, you're going to turn into an Alex Torres. Yeah. And then also very funny guy. And then, you know, and he's going to try to work his way to become a Luis Perez. And I was like, dude, that's ouch. Thanks.
Well, I guess I'm going to get fat again.
Don't.
For the comedy.
I take it away. No, don't. I don't agree with that. I have a hard disagree that you have to get fat to be funny.
For sure.
There's way too many people.
Poor Jonah Hill, man.
Yeah, that guy always gets roasted for being in shape.
Yeah.
That sucks.
I know.
That sucks. I started getting fat, like, doing stand-up. I gained, like, 30 pounds from when I started. And, like, I'm working my way back down. And I was like, dude, I hate being fat. Like, even kind of fat. Like, it's not fun. Doesn't feel good. Like, didn't like that my clothes didn't fit. And, like, was on my way back down. Which is why when Hatch did call me out, I was like, no, he's right. He's right. Because, like, 4 Bells me, I always wore these jumpsuits that, like, fit. It's the one thing I could wear that I didn't look like a fucking total fat ass. And I was like, dude, like, and that was the thing is like, I like the way you dress though. Gotta change your shoes though. Like there's always some shit that I didn't have done yet. But no, it's that same thing, being out late.
Yeah. Just
not even drinking a lot, but drinking often. So it's just having a drink or two 5 nights a week. Not good for you.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to, I think even Cat Williams said on the Club Shay Shay interview at the very beginning, he's like, you either become a connoisseur or you become an alcoholic, like because of where you are.
Yeah.
And when you host stuff, you get drinks for free. So there's not even that like financial like thing keeping you in check. So
which has never been a deciding factor for me if I'm drinking or not. And that's, you know, maybe
fair,
a point of privilege, but that is the point that I'm coming from.
Now, I mean, to be honest, it hasn't really, but at least it was one thing I'd be like, do I want to spend?
Like, do I want to drink or do I not?
Yeah.
That was it.
I feel like you don't drink a lot though.
I don't drink often. I've told you once before. So like any nights that my kid is home, I was like, I don't drink because my kid ruins it for me. And I was like, there's no way. There's no way to.
Dude, he can't hold his liquor at all.
No, that's what's going on. No, just
he's such a lightweight, that guy.
Having a hangover as a parent is just not the move.
Yeah.
Like Anne Hathaway has a very famous like interview where she said that, and I was like, for sure. I was like, you're a real one for that, Anne Hathaway. Who is the actress that my husband calls every brunette white actress? He's like, oh, Anne Hathaway is in this, and I'm like,
nice.
Yep.
You gotta have one of those. You gotta have one of those archetypal that color person. Yeah. Easier with the white people. You can get away with it a lot better.
Well, it's tricky for me in comedy. It's like genuinely, and again, so I'm taking it at the level that we're at. I'm taking it so serious where it's like I was like, I need to learn how to be good sober.
Yeah. And
I need to know how to be good with a few. Because one time we went to Kill Tony, the first Kill Tony we did in May. So I was like 2 months in. And I put my name in, and I was just, because I was like, I only do it sober, you know? And then I was so stressed out the whole time. And then I was like, I bet a beer would have been pretty good about now. So it's like, I was like, I can't do Skankfest, no beers. I was like, that's not going to happen. So I've been working on that. That's been a thing that sometimes I'm like, I'm going to have a drink because I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure out how to do it.
It's good that you recognize that early, because I think I found out that like, I'm 2 different types of comedians, whether I'm drunk or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think I can be I think there are people that love drunk me, and I have fun doing it, but then it's like, oh, I could never replicate that sober.
Yeah.
I get so much meaner. I feel like I'm so good at like shit talking with people when I'm drunk, and like it's funny. There's some great clips where I'm like, wow, I would never come up with that like sober. But then obviously it's the toll on your body, and then it's the idea that you need it. It's like, oh no, which I never felt like, but I'm like, it sucks to see something and know I was hammered and be like, that's a hammered Jared joke. That's not like I sat down and wrote this.
You would have a tough time saying the same thing.
Just even coming up with it.
Yeah.
I don't know, like it's like the chemistry, like the rewire, like the just way my brain works in that state is different. It just goes different places. You know,
here's the problem with me. I just get sleepy if I drink. That's my problem. So sometimes I'll be like, okay, you can have 2 beers and you're not going to go to bed. And then, so I've had to work on that. So it's like, that's my thing. And like, nobody relates to that. Whenever I say that, I'm always like, no, I get tired when I start drinking. And, everyone's like, it makes me more hyper. And I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah. I've heard that people do get tired. I can't relate to that.
I'm just like, gonna go to bed.
I get this mentality of just like, I call it the one-way ticket mentality. I just go like, who gives a shit what happens tomorrow? Dude, Yep. Which is, again, a lot of fun. A lot of fun to be around. And then it's definitely like those hangover moments where I wake up the next day and go like, oh God, I did that.
Yeah.
I convinced you to do that with me. Oh, dude, my bad.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We shouldn't do this again.
No, I feel like I'm too anxious of a person to like not to get to a place of like not being in control, you know, in a not like safe situation.
Well, when you put it that way, I think about like the unrestricted version of me is dangerous for people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not what I mean. I'm just, you know, for me, it's
I know that's not what you mean, but when you said that, I was like, that's exactly what it is. There's like these things that sober me is so good at being like, don't think about that.
Yeah.
That when those things are down, I go like, that would be a lot of fun, actually. Yeah. That'd be a good idea.
Thinking about this is fun.
You don't need all 10 of your fingers, dude. You can get by with 8 of them. Trust me.
Thinking about this is fun. I'm going to say it out loud so we're all going to have fun.
Yeah.
We're all going to enjoy all my funny thoughts right now.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll say before is like the amount of things that I think versus what comes out of my mouth is like 10%. Like 10% is allowed out.
Right.
So it's just is like, it's a lot. It's a lot of people talking up there. All at one time.
Yeah, a lot of people talking up there. I just got one voice. I got one, and he's just very persistent.
He's you.
Yeah. He's just like, come on, dog.
Yeah. I like that episode of SpongeBob. You a big SpongeBob guy?
Pretty big SpongeBob guy.
That seems like our generation. But there's you big SpongeBob. You big.
Such a good. What a great segue. You a big SpongeBob.
What'd you start out with? You were like, what about all this literature? And I was like, what about SpongeBob SquarePants? There's an episode of SpongeBob where there's like little SpongeBobs in his head.
Yeah.
And then they're like,
name,
burn
it,
name, throw it out. And then I'm like, that's it. So the makers of SpongeBob know how I operate because we're doing the same thing. So I think of it as a lot of little Kaitlins.
Okay. I definitely remember that episode and identify with that because he was he remembered the Krabby Patty formula. That was the only thing he remembered how to do, and he forgot his name. Yeah. I do see that a lot. I don't see, Did you ever watch Black Mirror? That's a big doggy on media.
Black Mirror is at the Netflix.
Yeah. Like the sci-fi shorts.
Certain episodes. You know what's interesting? In high school, we had like 6 different English classes we could take, and I took sci-fi. So that was like my first like real dive into it. So like all the schools of thought, like the butterfly effect, time being cyclical versus time being
a flat
rigid.
Circle?
No, where it's like time is, the idea is just like with time travel media, that it's just like either time is rigid or time is flexible.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Where it's like either this
if it
thing
happened,
was going to
then it
happen
happened every time, or you're creating separate timelines.
Or it's like, or a butterfly flaps its wings and then everything is different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like things like that. And then we were talking about something else. So that thought's gone. It's escaping.
Like a butterfly.
Yep. Just, it grew up from a caterpillar and it flew away from my brain.
I was going to say, did you get a chance to watch Midnight Gospel yet?
What is that?
It was Duncan Trussell's animated show.
No, I have not. But I did look it up, so I do have access to it. But you were going to tell me about Black Mirror. And yes, I've watched some of them, but I read the synopsis and then I watch based on if I like the synopsis or not.
Oh, interesting.
That's how I do.
Got
So I
it.
don't watch all of it. I didn't watch Bandersnatch movie.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the eyebrows guy.
So there was an episode where a lady puts her consciousness into a little egg that like it's like an AI that does all of her like daily chores, so she doesn't have to think about it.
Is that a newer one?
I want to say it's like season 3.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of middle of the road.
Mm-hmm.
That one where it's like it's one person, but because it's an AI, it doesn't have to be like human. It just has access to like it has like a generic board that it could just do all these things with. So it was like very simple. Do the toast button, or like so a new task comes up. There's just a magical button for it. Instead of seeing a bunch of things, I just see my head is like that. It's like anything it wants to like have at its fingertips, it can.
Yeah.
In dreams a lot, I do see myself almost like Doctor Strange.
Okay.
Like I can be like, oh, whatever I need, I can just create right in front of me. So I don't have to think about it in like real life logistics. I don't know if that resonates with you at all. Like,
no, there's a lot
do you
of
have
references.
scary dreams a lot?
Huh?
Do you have like scary dreams?
It's so ridiculous. This was definitely not something I was like, you know what, I'm going to talk about this. No, I had yes, I was I have a lot of weird fears. Okay, so this is why I avoided so much film growing up. So like, damn, I don't like, hear me out. I don't like the original Oompa Loompas from Willy Wonka.
Okay.
And that's fine for me to say because I have an aunt who is a dwarf. Fuck with me, the internet.
I wasn't seeing that as I don't like dwarfs.
That's not how I feel at all.
I thought I don't like orange people, but that's okay.
No, and that's because I feel neutral about Trump. And no, but they're scary. I don't like them. They freak me out.
They are pretty creepy looking creatures.
Also, I was very scared. Sorry about it. I was very scared as a little kid where I'm not in control of what I'm afraid of. Like now, where I have a handle on it. Just kidding. But I was very afraid of Michael Jackson.
Okay.
Like the one that I know from my childhood.
Yeah. Yeah, the idea of a person being botched by surgery.
But also, for a little kid, he's kind of a scary looking guy.
He's a scary looking guy
now
for anybody. Yeah,
sure.
it didn't go well.
So yes, I had a lot of dreams that they were under my bed. So, but they were always together. Were the Oompa Loompas and Michael Jackson.
Okay, that's not bad.
So I mean, yeah, I had scary dreams.
I bring it up because I would have scary dreams, but when I recognize I'm in a dream, I immediately become like, oh, I'm the god of this reality and everything should be afraid of me. And that's what I love about like imagination and that type of thing, whereas like I have a good handle on it. Whereas like, let's say like it shows up in my dream and I'm like, oh God, it's it. And then like something, if I can recognize I'm a dream, I immediately imagine it being afraid of me because now it realizes I can just like snap it and then I'll just like torture it like the rest of my dream. I was like, boom, now you're like cheese, and then I bring you right back, and now you have no mouth, and now you can't breathe, and like I become the horrible thing. So I think one is probably why I like horror and that type of thing,
because it's dream like, fuel.
Yeah,
you're like, what am I?
I need more things to destroy.
In my
like,
dreams
I love the idea of Thanos just being like, all need to run away from me. I'm the scary. Like I become Thanos of my dreams pretty often. I had a great dream that I was like Superman, but like I was not being good with it.
Yeah.
I was just like, dude,
kind of sounds how
y'all
like they
are fucked. Whatever I want to do right now, dude, holy shit.
Shouldn't have been mean to me last
I just
week.
like I fly across around like, who talking shit now? Yeah. I don't know what that says about me, and I lost the thread of why I brought that up.
We were talking about dreams. But I'm the opposite. Everything is terrorizing me in my dreams. Even now.
Got it.
Yeah. But I don't dream all that often. And that's probably got a lot to do with not getting enough sleep between my two lives.
Yeah.
And not hitting my REMs like I need to.
Gotta hit those REMs.
I gotta get them REMs. I try to, and that's a tricky, like, then I'll be like, okay, get my kid ready for school. I'm gonna drop him off. And then I was like, and then I'll go back to bed. And then every time I'm like, nope. I'm just like, that's not gonna happen. So, you know, I'm just not getting them REMs.
We're a little over an hour, so we should probably start wrapping it up.
Okay.
I do want to ask, So one thing that has been fun I've been doing with my girlfriend is explaining what the B-Dubs Council is, because she grew up in an all like feminine household. She doesn't. I like the funnest thing about our relationship was I grew up with like all boys. My mom was raised pretty much by a single dad, so it's just like very masculine energy, and like she's the exact opposite. All girls in her family, like her dad's very just like I just provide, and that's like I don't have any like input. Yeah. And so it's been funny because like I can't really watch Matt and Shane around her because I think she just doesn't resonate. What? Not that she doesn't like it, but like it's just like it's like if she put on Twilight. Yeah. For me, or like I don't know. She likes to watch.
Just tune out.
Yeah. 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 And I jokingly brought up like the B-Dubs Council, and she's like, "What's that?" And I was like, "It's actually like an archetypal thing. Like, why I think it's such a good bit, it's because like all guys understand." I was like, "Yeah." It's like when no girls are around, like we want to talk about World War II and like sports and like the funniest thing. Like my mom will do this to me too. She's always like, "So you saw your friend? Like, you know, how's her mom doing?" I'm like, "I don't know. Yeah, I didn't ask about that." Like, well, what do you guys talk about? It's like sometimes the best hangs are like just watching something and not talking to each other. Yeah, like going like, "Good throw." He's got a good arm on him as long as he doesn't get hurt. Like it's just no, I don't. No, I just need another person to say my thoughts against. Yeah. And so it's just been fun. I've just been making up things that are B-Dubs Council things, acting like it's like a real secret society. And I mean, it's just a game with us, but it has been fun. Just being like, so what would you say? I think my game is like, what are some things that are like B-Dubs Council things if you're trying to explain it to like an alien?
I was just like, oh, because I was like, oh, that's a fun thing you're doing with your lady right now. And then I was like, oh, me and Max, we're doing this fun thing where we keep putting this like plastic ring in each other's shoe. Okay. And it's fun because like I have a lot of shoes. And so is really good at guessing what shoes I'm going to wear that day because I'll switch it up.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
Yeah. So I was totally thinking about that.
I have a friend who, and I can show them to you after. She came over my house. She was going to like trip sit me while I took LSD. And while I'm like in the middle of it, somehow she started sneaking around my house and putting little plastic dicks all over my house. And I didn't see her do this. Yeah. And it was like probably my second time on it. And I did not like, I didn't know what to expect, you know? So I like look over at like the painting and there's like a little, and I'm like, what the hell is that? I go over and I grab it and I was like, who did this? And she was so good at acting like, I don't know, man, that's weird. Yeah. Like, that's crazy. And then I start seeing them all over. And I'm like, you're fucking with me, right? Like, she's like, no, I'm not. She's like, maybe Noah did it. Yeah. And I was like, Noah hasn't been here in like 2 days.
You got to be like, which of my friends is traveling with a bunch of little plastic dicks?
Oh, yeah. And yeah, no. Like, and it's a lot. Most likely? I'll show you after. Like, it ended up being like 50 of them, and they were everywhere. Yeah. I'm just thinking to myself, like, I was lucid the whole time. There was no point where like I wasn't around. So I'm like, when did she do this? Like, bathroom, I get that. You go to the bathroom, throw a couple in there. But like, they were in my room. I ended up finding, like, for the next couple of weeks, I'd find them like in between the bricks over there. I was like, dude. Incredible.
What an interesting love language of your friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's like my love is little plastic dicks all over the house.
I think her love is irritating me. Yeah. I think that's our relationship. We really are like she's going to be moving to Idaho. But before she left to just kind of visit, we had dinner together, me, her, and my girlfriend. And she'd never seen, my girlfriend never seen us interact together. And she's like, you are like such an asshole to her. And I'm like, well, you saw when as soon as we came in, she started being an asshole to me. Like, I go in with the best of intentions, but as soon as she swings at me, like, eyes go red and just constantly just talking shit. But it is recreational. Because people are like, why don't you guys stop hanging out? I'm like, what?
We're having a great time.
The whole point is that, I just want to win. Like, I got to get one over on her. So it was great. I got to figure out something. She's like, you can't do that at my house because I have cats. She's afraid the cats will swallow them. Sure. And I was like, not fair. Yeah. But I have them all captured.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
I had to hide them from her, although because every time she'd come back, she'd start doing it again. Yeah. And I was like, dude, I got time for this shit. You know what it is? Yeah. All right. Well, this has been the first episode. We're not going to name it because we don't know what we're going to name it yet.
Sure.
But this has been the first episode of it, guys. Hope y'all had fun.
Yeah. We appreciate you all 3 of you. I don't know.
And
Shoot for
you
the
better
stars.
like, comment, and subscribe and all of that stuff, because honestly, like, I'm going to quit my job when this thing takes off.
Nice.
And I don't want to wait
Yeah.
that long.
Right.
I'm not trying to do that.
You shouldn't.
No.
Yeah.
You're going to get big on Kill Tony.
Man.
I have something about that, and I wanted to say it on the podcast, but I'll just
We
tell
don't
it to you
actually
after.
have to end.
We should, because it's more work for me later.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't understand that, so
It's
I guess
more
we
work
do
for
have
me
to
later
end.
the longer it is. I know you want to sit here. and talk
Yeah.
about it. I do too, but like I just want to turn the cameras off and then have something for next time,
Okay.
because I have a whole. This is good. This is good. This is actually. I have a whole thing about how nobody understands what Kill Tony actually is, or how to become a regular, and I think I do.
Well.
So I will tell you about that off air, and then we'll probably talk about it second episode.
Ooh. Stay tuned. Thank you. Please,
Woo!
please like us so that Jared can quit his job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thanks.
Bye,
Bye
we
guys.
love you.